3 in the morning. The room is dark, and you are staring at a glowing rectangle, scrolling through a feed of political outrage and collapse. It leaves you feeling hollowed out and exhausted. This fatigue is often framed as a personal failing, a sign that your resilience is low. In reality, the infinite scroll functions as a resource denial attack on human working memory. The exhaustion is an engineered feature. This is the horizontal war. You are prodded to fight your neighbor side to side over curated culture wars, while a larger structure looms directly above the battlefield. Constant fighting drains the bandwidth needed to look up. It ensures you lack the energy to challenge the entities actually running the game. Looking up reveals the vertical war. This is the conflict between the gears, the productive working class, and the rust, the extractive, administrative, and financial elite. This architecture shows the 3 distinct barriers separating the fortress of the rust from the gears at the bottom. The first layer is economic terror, like the pressure of inflation. The second is the great distraction, the engineering of digital outrage. These work together to pull value upward from your labor and into the fortress. The final barrier is the padlock of decorum and professionalism. This layer relies on unwritten social contracts to prevent the gears from turning against the machine. The system requires you to believe that voicing a grievance is only legitimate if you do it politely. It effectively traps dissent within the very rules the elite created to protect themselves. We are taught that the solution to injustice is to follow the proper procedure. This means writing formal letters, filing HR complaints, and using sanitized corporate jargon to ensure you are taken seriously. Following the center path of source image 2, a sanitized complaint flows directly into a bureaucratic box to be ignored. But any display of genuine emotion triggers tone policing. The focus shifts to your behavior until the complaint is invalidated for lacking professionalism. The institution demands absolute politeness from the people it extracts value from. It executes its own actions with surgical precision, yet asks for grace from those it harms. Demands for professionalism function as tactical filters. They render structural abuse socially acceptable and exhaust the people attempting to speak out. Bureaucracies are built to process either polite compliance or predictable hostility. To disrupt them, you must provide an input they cannot categorize. This is the role of tactical frivolity or serious play. It is the use of humor, joy, and absurdity to bypass a rigid institution's defenses. Imagine a riot officer expecting a violent clash. Instead, they are met by a clown cheerfully polishing their combat boots with a pink feather duster. Source image 3 illustrates the neurological result, schema collapse. A schema is a mental framework for organizing information. When an input fails to match any existing model, it creates a prediction error that leads to operational paralysis. The enforcer freezes because the situation has no script. Institutional power is fragile because it relies on binary logic. By deploying a joke, you paralyze the machine's ability to exert force. This logic applies even to the stronghold of Wall Street and its high-frequency trading algorithms. High-frequency trading uses powerful computers to execute thousands of transactions in fractions of a second. In 2021, elite hedge funds shorted GameStop, a failing video game retailer. Short selling is an investment strategy where someone bets that a stock's price will fall. They assume traditional market behavior would guarantee a profit. Millions of retail investors coordinated a counterattack. They didn't use formal financial analysis. They used post-ironic memes, declarations of diamond hands, and rocket emojis. Wall Street's algorithms are programmed to read rational data. When faced with a unified swarm driven by weaponized humor and spite, they suffered a total schema collapse. The machines were blind because the attack didn't follow the rules of the model. The retail swarm beat the system by rejecting the premise of rational fear. They were willing to hold their shares to zero just to inflict pain on the hedge funds, a variable the machines could not compute. The reaction of the billionaire class revealed the fragility of their power. When the rigged models failed, they faced significant losses. Billionaire Leon Cooperman appeared on national television, visibly emotional. He framed the decentralized buying as an inappropriate attack on wealthy people, complaining that paying a fair share was a bullshit concept. Keith Gill, the anchor for the retail investors, took a different approach. Subpoenaed to testify before Congress, he ignored the institutional script. Seated in a gaming chair, he offered a simple, undeniable reality: I like the stock. The same elite class that demands professionalism and emotional restraint from the gears threw a public tantrum the moment their own system was used against them. We return to that feeling of exhaustion established at the start. Fighting on the system's sanitized terrain, using their approved words and their polite channels, guarantees a loss. The terrain is designed to exhaust you. The alternative is to refuse to be predictable. Stop looking across the divide at your neighbor and start looking up at the mechanics of the game. A humorless machine of control is most vulnerable when its rules are laughed at. Refusing to recognize its authority is the most effective weapon available.